Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, because right now what we can see in the immediate short term on the 1 hour time frame is actually this ascending triangle pattern, which is typically more likely to break out to the upside. And the point of the breakout for this pattern right here would be 67.3K. So if the price does actually break above this point of the breakout, well, in that case, it would set up this price target sitting at about 68.6K. Though there are a couple things that would invalidate this pattern. For example, if you see a breakdown to the downside, so trading below this upward sloping support line. And another thing would be if you do end up seeing the breakout to the upside and then the price actually trading back below the point of the breakout. So something like this, you get the start of the breakout and then it actually breaks to the downside below that 67.3K level, invalidating the pattern, and therefore we should cross off this price target. But of course, for now, this is just a pattern that you should keep in mind if you're trading Bitcoin right now. Either way, if you do want to trade with up to 200x leverage, like I did, for example, here yesterday, making 116% using 135x leverage, then in that case, I recommend you go down to the description of the video you are watching right now and clicking on this link right here to register, because if you register through this link and deposit at least $100, you can get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000, depending on how much you deposit and how much you trade. MEXC is the exchange that I use as well. I highly recommend you go check it out because it has very low fees and up to 200x leverage. But if you are going to be trading on MEXC, especially if you're using high leverage, then always make sure you set a good stop loss so you are actually managing your risk and are not risking your entire portfolio or anything like that. Like I said, go check it out and go claim that bonus as well. It's some free money that you can trade with. Now taking a look at this pattern that I looked at in my previous video, which is this bearish divergence. And we already saw a bit of that playing out actually, because after I recorded that video, we got a sharp move to the downside all the way down to about 65.8K. And after that, we saw the price trade back to the upside to fill this CME gap. So one thing that you must keep in mind in the short term here is also that on the RSI momentum indicator on the 1 hour time frame, we are actually seeing a bit of a rejection potentially from this downward sloping line of resistance. So what that could mean is that if you see the RSI indeed get rejected from that trend line once again, then we would be getting some bearish momentum, because whenever you see the RSI trade below that 50 level, and currently it is sitting at 51, well, in that case, anything below 50 means that the price is getting some bearish momentum. So that is also something that could invalidate that ascending triangle pattern that I talked about earlier in the video. One thing that is actually bullish to see for Bitcoin though, is actually that, of course, recently we had a bunch of lower highs. However, after that, recently we are now seeing higher highs in the Bitcoin price. So we're getting higher highs right here, as well as higher lows. So that is a very good thing to see for the price structure of Bitcoin. And combine that with the fact that after the RSI reached overbought territory right here, which typically means there is limited room to the upside, and that the RSI needs to reset back down to that 50 level, roughly speaking. And after getting another short push to the upside, reaching that overbought territory once again, then during the weekend, we actually saw the RSI reset back to around that 50 level, where we got a bounce from there as well. So now potentially the price is ready to trade back to the upside. And actually another thing that has a big impact on the price action are the support and resistance levels. So let's take a look at those right now. What we can see recently is that we got a bounce from this level of support and then another bounce from there as well, from this big level of support, which is sitting from 66K all the way down to 65,000 US dollars. But in the case that we get some bearish momentum and actually trade below that 65K level, then likely we will see some lower price action. For example, right here, there might be some short-term support, which is sitting at 63.3K. But if we get a sharper pullback here, then we could trade into this next level of support, which is sitting from 62.4K all the way down to 60,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. However, that is about it for the bearish scenarios, because in the case we do just trade to the upside from here, we might have some short-term resistance at the top of that ascending triangle pattern that I was talking about earlier, sitting at 67.3K. But then above that, if we get that breakout to the upside, then the next big level of resistance above that is sitting all the way here from 68.5K all the way up to 70,000 US dollars. So if we do get that breakout to the upside, then this could be a level where the price gets rejected or needs to start trading sideways a little bit. And another thing we need to take a look at is actually the Fibonacci retracement level, because we are getting kind of close to reaching that one Fibonacci level at about 69,100. And this one Fibonacci level right here is actually the critical level to break, because in the case that we don't and we get something like this where it was a fake out above and then trade back below, well, then we traded all the way back to the 0.786 Fibonacci level to see if we can find some support there, which is sitting at 57.6K. Though, of course, if we do get another rejection from here, there are many support levels in between, so we don't immediately have to start looking at this as a potential level that the price could go to. But it is something to keep in mind that this 69.1K level is actually very important to actually break to the upside from. Now taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, first of all on the 24-hour time frame. And don't worry if you are not familiar with this chart, because all you need to know is that typically the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there is most liquidity on this chart. So where there are the most yellow areas on this chart. And what you can see is that most of the liquidity right now on the 24-hour time frame is sitting at 67.7K. So that is potentially a level where the price could get attracted to. Now there is some liquidity to the downside, but most of the liquidity is to the upside in the immediate short term here. And zooming out to the 1 week time frame, we can see a similar story, because right here, once again, at 67.8K, we have most of the liquidity being to the upside with about $500 million worth of liquidations. So people that are shorting the Bitcoin price that will lose their money on their trade if the price gets attracted to that level. Though one thing that is noticeable in the short term here on the 1 week time frame is that a lot of liquidity is starting to pile up to the downside, with liquidity as low as about 61,000 US dollars. If we cannot keep up this bullish momentum, then potentially Bitcoin is going to sweep all of this liquidity down here. But for now, what we can just say is that most of the liquidity is to the upside in the 24-hour time frame and in the 1 week time frame. So most likely we are first going to sweep this liquidity right here before then potentially making a next move. And this is, of course, not financial advice. I'm simply telling you what I see in the charts, and you can do with that information what you like. Moving on to Ethereum on the 4-hour time frame. Recently, we got rejected from the 0.786 Fibonacci level, after which we traded all the way to the downside to the 0.5 Fibonacci level, where now we are just ranging between that 0.5 and that 0.618 Fibonacci level. So now let's take a look at the short-term support and resistance levels for ETH to get a better understanding of what we can expect in the short term. The first support level we are going to take a look at is actually this falling wedge pattern with a descending level of resistance and a descending level of support. And you know, if you have been following my videos for a couple of weeks at this point, because I have been talking about this pattern for quite a while, saying that it is most likely to break out to the upside, which a couple of days ago it actually did. And what we can see right now, if we zoom in a little bit, is that we actually broke out and are now retesting this level right here, which is sitting at about $3,030. So ideally, what you would see here is a breakout, a retest of that level, and then a resumption from there. And I do think we can confirm this pattern as soon as we do see some more bullish momentum to the upside, and ideally breaking this level as well at about 32.20, because if that happens, then we are setting a new higher high instead of a lower high, meaning that potentially the price structure for ETH is changing and we are now getting some bullish momentum to the upside. So those are just some levels to look out for. However, there are more support and resistance levels, so let's take a look at those right now, because what we can see right here is actually that we have this big level of resistance, which is sitting from 31.50 all the way up to 32.50. And as you can see, the price already got rejected from close to that level a couple of times already. But like I said in my last video, when we were getting this rejection, potentially we can find some short-term support right here at $3,050, because we have this previous high right here acting as a bit of a level of support. Though in the case that we do trade lower than that level, then likely we will fall into this big level of support, which is sitting from $3,000 all the way down to $2,850. But in the case that this was all the bearish price action that we are going to get and breaking through that $32.50 level that I was talking about earlier, well, in that case, the next critical level of resistance is this level right here, the 0.618 Fibonacci level, sitting at 33.30. Now taking a look at Solana on the 4-hour time frame, that also recently got rejected from the 0.786 Fibonacci level, sitting at $205, where recently, after trading all the way to the 0.5 Fibonacci level at $134, we then started trading to the upside and actually broke through this 0.618 Fibonacci level, which in my opinion is actually very significant to see. First of all, what we can see happening right now is that Solana is actually getting rejected from this big level of resistance, which is sitting from $171 all the way up to $181 for the price of Sol. So in the case that we do get a further rejection here, well, in that case, the next big level of support is sitting from 171 all the way down to $166 for the price of Solana. But if we do pull back further than that, so we trade below that $166 level, well, in that case, we might find some short-term support right here at about $160 for the price of Solana. And what we can see on this 4-hour RSI momentum indicator as well is that recently we were in overbought territory, dipped down a little bit, but then reached right back into that overbought territory, just barely touching it here. So when we were in overbought territory right here, there was just limited room to the upside. And combine that with the fact that Solana was trading in this big level of resistance, therefore we are now seeing a rejection, which was to be expected. So potentially what we are going to see right now is that simply the RSI will reset back to around that 50 level. So then there can be some more momentum either to the upside or to the downside. And looking at the 1-hour time frame, again, you see first reaching overbought territory and then now already resetting quite nicely back to around that 50 level. So if this kind of continues on the 1-hour time frame, then likely you will see something similar on the 4-hour time frame as well. Now, if you are new here, I highly recommend you join my Discord server. It is a great place to learn from others, as well as just be active in the crypto space in general and meet a bunch of like-minded people that are basically trading crypto just like you. So I highly recommend you join it. It's completely free to do. Simply go to the description of the video you're watching right now and click this Discord link right here. Make sure you have verified your email though, because I added that as a way to keep out bots from joining the server. This has been today's market update. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.